I'm going to kick us off tonight, and I want to say I've been inspired to do this live about purpose because a few of my clients have asked me, how do I find my purpose? And I was part of a seminar series where we talked about purpose, and then people asked about it as well. And I'm so excited to have Rebekah Saltzman from Balagan Be Gone joining me tonight. And I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to talk about purpose and also get Rebekah's take on it and just really have a discussion about it. So the purpose for tonight is to inspire you. For those of you who are very clear about your purpose, you can take this as an opportunity to kind of check and see if that still fits you. If you are just starting and thinking about finding your purpose, this is an opportunity for you to get some ideas on how to go about it. So what is important is that that you're here tonight. We appreciate you taking the time and that you learn something. Perhaps you connect with some people that you can speak with later. So that's really what I want to say, and I'm going to let Rebekah introduce herself. So Rebekah, if you want to say a few things about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebekah Saltzman. I'm a personal organization expert, and my purpose is to help other people find their personal comfort level with their curated best collection of things. And I really love helping people figure out exactly what things they need and what things they don't need. And I find that this is both in their home and in their businesses. And I find that when people figure out exactly all the things that they need in their life, like what is essential and what is not essential, it's so much easier to figure out all the other areas of your life because it's so much more clear and obvious because you're focusing less on stuff and more on what you need to get done or what you're doing or who you're with or just any other thing beside your stuff, because our stuff just has a tendency to take over.
Indeed, it does. So thank you for being here tonight.
My
So
pleasure.
I'm gonna give just a little bit of overview of purpose or my take on purpose, and Rebekah, then you can chime in. And then I thought I do is I go through the steps and that I suggest for people to find their purpose, and we can talk a little bit about that and your take on it. So, purpose has been used in so many different contexts and situation. And, when I prepared for tonight and I looked it up in the dictionary, what I found was it basically just means it's the reason for which something is done. And you just talked about organizing for a moment, and I talked about the purpose for tonight. And we have the purpose, for tiny little things, and then we have the purpose for really big things. And, I want you to keep this in mind because it can show up in the day, it can show up in the year, it can show up for our life. And yes, I am going to talk about it in the context of our life, because as we are going through this challenge that the world has put upon us, COVID, I think it's kind of the answer for staying up, for staying positive, that if you are following your purpose and if you're moving towards your purpose, it really constantly gives you energy and helps you to propel yourself forward versus worrying about, what is going to happen next and is there going to be another lockdown, because you inside yourself, that you are, following your purpose and you're using your talents to move yourself forward. So let me just say one more thing and then I'm going to pass it on to you, Rebekah. Okay. So what is a purpose? So the purpose is, for me, a giant intention plus a goal. And intention I use as, this is the way I want to experience myself maybe throughout the day and the way that I want to experience myself throughout my life. So I have this intention that's moving me forward, and then I have a goal. And the goal can be, like I said, a small goal, or it could be a big goal. So it's this powerful force that moves me forward. It can overtake me at times. And I want this, especially when I kind of feel a little lost or I'm worried about, how is my outside world impacting me? But it fuels me from the core of my being. And we are born with this. And I understand it's not so easy for us to identify it because there's all this, stuff that blocks us. but it's something that we all have. It might change at some point, but it is an incredible, powerful, force that moves you forward. So another way to ask yourself this is, what am I going to do on this planet, or how am I going to show my talents, or what am I going to do with my talents, and what is my life going to look like as I am moving myself forward. So Rebekah, I'm going to just pass it on to you and see what you have to say about that and your thoughts.
All right. Well, I think actually giving a definition to something is really, really helpful, because it allows you to be clear about all the things you have to do. But I feel like one of the most important things that you talked about was how purpose is aligned with goals. And for me, I think that so goals for me are like a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, they track our progress, and they allow us to feel like we have made progress or move forward. But on the other hand, we're like really, really hard on ourselves when we don't reach our goals, or when we think we don't reach our goals, or when we're trying to get there. And I know, like, for myself, like, I often set like totally radically audacious goals for myself. And it's like almost like you have no business even making a goal like that for yourself, right? Like, it doesn't even seem realistic. But I feel like when you can set goals like that, it allows you to keep pushing yourself forward. And I think that with purpose, it's not always so clear what our purpose is. Like, at one point in your life, you may think that purpose is X. And then at a later date, you may think that it's Y, and you can't you like look back on that X goal and you think to yourself, how did I ever think it was X? And it's very, very hard, I think, to get past that you were working towards X for so long and then to move on to Y. That's number one. But I also think that once you have decided what your purpose is and set a goal for yourself, it's okay to say, like, this isn't going in the direction that I want to go on, and I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to do something else. And I think that during Corona, a lot of us have had to do that, because a lot of us have just had to do that. And, I'm running this challenge, and one woman said to me, she's like, I don't have a job. I can't afford it. And I said to her, okay, what do you do? And she said, I'm a translator. I translate from Hebrew to English. And I said to her, oh my gosh, that's amazing. What kind of things do you translate? And she's like, oh, I translate anything. And I'm like, that's awesome. Did you make a package for new people, new immigrants to Israel who really have trouble with Hebrew, where you get like X number of documents translated included, and it's a flat fee for X number of documents, no matter what they are? And she's like, oh, I never thought of that. So, like, even within our goals, like, even if we have sometimes a straight path, like, okay, I'm a translator, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm doing, I know what I am, right? Like, this is my purpose in life, to help people move between languages. Even within that skill set, you can still pivot. You can still find a way to have purpose within your current trajectory. Like, it's still possible to say, like, okay, I'm still supposed to be a translator, but how I'm supposed to translate is a little bit different than what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And I think that is a really, number one, important thing to come to in your mind, and number two, to come to like grips with. Because if you can say to yourself, like, okay, what I thought that this job was isn't exactly what it is, or I can make it into whatever I want it to be, it's so easy to push forward and figure out where exactly you're supposed to go and move forward. And I mean, I think for most people, and I would love to hear from everybody online, I think for most people, I feel like we're put in this world to leave it better than when we got here. And there are lots of ways to do that. And I'm interested to know from everybody who's listening, both on Instagram and here in Zoom, like, do you think that it's meant to, like, that's what we're supposed to be here for? And if that's true, like, what are you gonna do to get there? Like, how are you gonna figure that out?
So while you guys are thinking about that, and you can put it in the chat, I want to make a distinction between the roles that we play and the jobs that we have and purpose, because sometimes they're aligned. And I think you, Rebekah, you brought actually a good point, but sometimes they're different. So let's say I'm a sister and I'm a daughter, and that could be a role that I play, but that doesn't necessarily have to be my purpose. And I'll give you another example that is, let's say I'm a mother and I happen to be a mother. That could be my purpose. And then after I raise my children, I might have other people and mother other people that are not necessarily my children, because that's one of the, that's the purpose that I have. So, we can play this game with the purpose on a tiny, small level, and we can look at it as a, professionally, do I connect the purpose with my profession with the purpose, or do I look at my life and say, God has put me on this planet for a reason, and my purpose is to leave this place a better, or to assist other people in some way. So that's a question that you want to ask yourself and see, where does this idea of purpose land? For me, it's like I want to play as big as I can, and yet I think my purpose has always been the same, and it's shown up in different ways. So I'll give you an example of that, is that recently, and it ties into the steps, that as I am looking at my purpose and I am playing on a bigger level, or I'm refining it more, I can see how my work is showing up differently. So I love hiking and I love beauty and nature, and it's part of my purpose, to look at transformation, not just as a coach. So as an outcome of that, I am going to take people on a coaching hike in a month. Teamed up with somebody in Israel who's a well-known hiker, and,
Awesome.
and we've teamed up. And so for me, that is taking my purpose deeper, because I'm taking these things that I love and I'm putting them together, right? So it can sometimes be aligned with what we do for a living, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And I see that somebody has their hand raised.
I agree with you. I actually think that's 100% true. And actually, as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, like, actually, I think we also have, like, I don't know really how to say this, but like micro purposes. Like, I think we have, so what I mean by micro purpose is where we are, like right this minute, whatever is happening to us right now, like that's supposed to be happening to us. And we're supposed to take something away from that particular moment that we're in. So right now, this is my purpose. Like, it's my micro purpose to sit here and talk to all of you tonight, and to talk with Barbara, talking about purpose, right? It's my purpose to like answer any of your questions. But the thing is like whatever is supposed to, and it's your purpose to be here right now, but like whatever is happening, like it's meant to happen to you. And I think that that's a really important thing to also notice, is that when you're going through some situation, it's like, I'm supposed to be here because I'm learning something for this, and this is going to get me from this, and this is going to get me ultimately to wherever it is that I need to be. And one of the things that was really, really hard is really hard for a lot of people is like when someone dies, they're like really, really distraught over someone dying. And it's so sad. And I think that it's sad, but I look at at death as like, wow, that person is so lucky they got to fulfill their purpose. And I'm saying this as like my mom recently passed away, and when I feel sad about it, I think to myself like, okay, well, her purpose was like finished. Whatever she needed to do, she completed, and like it's now part of our purpose to keep going on, and like to take that sad feeling and harness it for something better towards our purpose, because honestly, that is, I think, what moves us, that's what moves us forward, is those feelings like, okay, well, we don't know when it's all going to end, so like we should make the most out of every minute.
Well, okay. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
it's okay. So I want to go back to the purpose, because we said we're going to tell people and give them some on it's okay, on how to find your purpose. So here we go. First of all, so you, like we said, you can go for the big, what's my life purpose and why am I here on the planet? And I really encourage you to do that. Or you can sort of like put your foot in the water and see how you play with this. But whatever you do, the first step in all of this is to commit yourself to the process. So really say, okay, I'm going to do this process. I'm going to find my purpose. And, maybe it's the purpose for this month, or it's the purpose for my life. I'm going to do it. And if there are some challenges and some difficulties that, I bump up against, it's okay. So you can do this with a friend. You can do this with a coach. You can do this with, with somebody that you feel like comfortable with, but commit yourself to the process. That's the first step. The second step is to identify your values. So what are values? Values are things that are important to you. For me, it's the foundation that your life rests on, the things that you do that show up. When you have behaviors, when you take action, those values are what you can see, even though you might not be able to identify it. So if you've never identified your values, this is a really great time to do it. And it will help you, and it will clarify, a lot of things actually in life. And I'm a firm believer that values are no more than 3 to 5, words, and the words really describe something about you. So don't just write the word down, but really explain to yourself what your values are. And Rebekah, while I'm saying this, you can think about what values you want to share. So I'm going to share my values with you, and you want them to be really simple. So my first value is spirituality. And for me, that means being connected to God, knowing that I'm a divine being and looking at the divine and fostering my relationship with God and seeing that's kind of like my red thread through all of what I do in my life. And so that's my value, my first value, my most important value, and that's spirituality. My second value is love. And love means to love myself, to love others, to respect people, to respect myself, and really to bring this heart quality to the things that I do. My third value is transformation. And you can see this in my work, but I think you can see the other values as well, in that, I believe in transforming things. I believe that you can make things beautiful. I used to paint houses, when I was in school, and I painted houses for 20 years. And I have my first degree in art, and I love to fix things. And, and in my work, it's all about transformation, taking you from where you are to transforming you to another place. It's the healing. It's the changing things. It's the possibility, the opportunities. My fourth value is courage. And it's, for me, it's about taking risk. It's to get myself outside my comfort zone and to experience new things and to move myself forward. And last but not least, I have discipline, because discipline for me is being devoted. It's being devoted to my clients. It's being devoted to my spirituality, to myself, and to the process. So that is my foundation. And I've had this for many, many years. And, when I was looking at this, this live, I was saying to myself, this is basically, it's always been there for me. And maybe I had, different words that would describe those values, but basically those are my values. So I encourage you guys to take some time to identify your values and be really solid on them, because it will clarify a lot of things for you. So Rebekah, any values that you're clear of that you want to share?
Right. So I really value organization. And I know that that seems like an obvious one, but I actually think that there's a lot that stems from organization. I think that when we're organized, it gives us the ability to think things through and go a few steps ahead. But also, what it does is it allows us to be more flexible, because we can see like, oh, that's not working out. I have to pivot. I have to move. And you can go back up and go a few steps further. And I think that also when you are organized, it allows you to have more time for when things are not so obviously available, and things come up, because that's what happens in life. Things come up, and when you're organized, you can really approach that in a much better way. And for me, I think my second biggest value is just treating everyone with kindness and looking at people as though they are Selam Elohim, in God's image. And sorry, sometimes my brain can't make the switch. Just to see that, like, oh, when I'm upset at somebody, it's like, it's what's reflecting back on me. And like, I need to take a step back and say like, okay, is it, who's the problem here? Like, is it me or is it somebody else? And I think when you can do that, and when somebody else gets angry, when you can treat someone with kindness and see that they are also in God's image, like, you're able to reflect to them that it's not me that you're angry with, it's you yourself that you're angry with, or the position that you're angry with. So I think those two things are just the most important things to me personally.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so hopefully that allowed you guys to get some ideas of what could be your values. Okay, I'm going to move on to step number 3. Step number 3 is to examine your strengths, your talents, your loves. And there are many different words for those things, and you can kind of fill in the blank, but look at, what do I love? What am I really good at? What am I strong? And remember, just because I'm saying these things and I'm identifying those doesn't necessarily mean that that's my purpose. Like, I am a really good painter. I've painted lots of houses from New York City to Israel to Germany. God's creation, I've painted it. Doesn't necessarily mean that that is what my purpose is. Will I come out of retirement every once in a while? Yes, I will, because I like doing it. So, but to write down, what am I good at? What do I love? So, what am I good at? I'm a really good muscle tester, really, really good. I am very intuitive. I like to make things beautiful. I have really good ideas. I like to think on my feet, and I'm a good problem solver. So, that gets me going and gets me thinking about, what is it that I might want to do. I want to let you know, and on a secret, for many, many, many years, I was totally clueless about what I was going to do with my life and my career. I really didn't know. And one of the reasons I became a coach is because that when somebody coached me, and I got the feeling of, and somebody helped me to figure out how to get from A to B, it was kind of like, yes, that really had a deep impact on me. But I didn't know really for many, many, many years what I was going to do. So take some time to figure out what you're good at, what you love, what your strengths are. You can add some things to that and really write it down. And you might want to take a journal of where you say, okay, every day this week, I'm going to take 10 minutes and I'm going to write things down. I might even want to ask some of my friends or my family, or, like maybe a stranger, somebody that doesn't really know me that well, and just get some information from this person.
Right.
And say, hey, what do you think I'm good at? And let yourself be surprised. So Rebekah, give us one thing that you're really good at, and it can't be organizing, because
Okay.
we're an organizer, so we know you're good at organizing. So
I think one of the things that I'm really good at is actually related to the second thing, is to realize when somebody is like inside their own head and they're feeling like they can't get out of the situation. And so what I'm really good at is hearing that they're stressed out, taking a step back and helping them to pivot outside of themselves for a minute to figure out like, whoa, what's the solution to this issue? And because there's always a solution. And I think that it's something that I think that I didn't always have, but it's something that just I think came about through my job. And what I realized is that it's such a valuable skill because it comes in handy in so many places where it's like when you can just be like, whoa, let's back up, there's a solution to this problem. It might not be the perfect solution, but it's like it's okay, it's good enough for right now.
Awesome. That is great to have the skill indeed. Okay, so step number 4. This is slightly different from the step number 3. I want you to think about things that give you energy. You know, what energizes you? And it could be, you know, it could be eating chocolate. It could be that really gives you a lot of energy, or it could be, you know, I have a client that I'm working with who was shot in a terrorist attack, and I'm working with this young man, and I don't really want to get into the story, but you know, he can barely move. He's in a wheelchair, and a couple of days ago, he was able to give his mother a kiss for the first time.
Wow.
It was
That's
incredible.
amazing.
It's like I have been telling people about it, and the muscle testing is giving this young kid a voice, because through the muscle testing, we can kind of identify, you know, what he's feeling and what's going on with him. And after he gave his mother a kiss, he was grinning for 15 minutes. And his mother was telling me today that one of his friend came just because, and that he was crying afterwards because he was really touched and moved by the visit of the friend. So even though you see this young man and he can barely move and, you know, is really severely challenged, he has emotions, and he's there. And so, you know, like for me, that energizes me beyond belief and reminds me and firms my purpose and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So, you know, those kind of things. But it could also be you helping an old lady across the street, or you're cleaning up the street, or you're, you know, I ordered some, Rebecca will love this. I ordered some zero waste, you know, products today. You know,
Yeah.
I am done with throwing these Q-tips into the garbage. I just really can't stand it anymore. So
Oh, it's
I
so
ordered something
wasteful.
that you can reuse all the time. So things like that, really think about what is it that energizes you, that fills you up. What do you love? What brings you joy? And here's an important question for you to answer. What can't you live with, or what injustice, you know, really gets you wound up inside? And for me, it's been like this since I was a child, since my mother said to me, one can't do it. In German, you have the saying, and it's like, one can't do it. And I'm like, who's that one? You know, and it's really, you say in German, man can't do this. And I'm like, you know, I'm not a man. And who's that man? Because if you tell me it can't be changed, that's what you have to live with. You know, you have to live with the impact of your trauma, or you have to live with the impact of whatnot. It's like inside of me, there's something that says, no, that is not so. And it's kind of like one of the pillars of my work, in that I believe that we can have a different response to circumstance. So what books you like, what movies you like. So again, you know, take out your journal, and maybe for 7 days in a row, you write about it. And look at what energizes you. So Rebecca, what energizes you? What's the thing that really gets you going?
I think it's really, like I said earlier, it's really helping other people. Like, um, I get a lot out of helping other people. I think that helping, it's funny because sometimes you help another person because you are supposed to like be giving them something, but really it gives you something. And I take a lot from helping other people, and I find that it really it helps me get to my goals. I think of like who I want to be when I grow up. Because it's like you learn so much when you help other people. You learn a lot about them, you learn about yourselves, you just get experience doing things. And I think it just makes you like a more compassionate person and better equipped to relate to other people, because everybody is like a real person. They're real and they have feelings, and like you don't always know what's going on with them and they don't always know what's going on with them. But like helping other people, like even with something small, I guess it goes back to kindness. Like when you help other people and when you're kind to them, it's like a ripple effect.
Yeah, it's true. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so last step, number 5. So we have all this information. You looked at your values. First of all, you committed yourself. You looked at your values. You made a list of strengths and things that you're good at, and then you made a list of things that energized you, or you looked at things that you can't live without. And now it's time for you to put this all together. And what you can do is you can take cards and write those different elements on the cards, and you can color coordinate them and play around with them. It's kind of like a puzzle. And see where the common denominators are, and see if there are any behaviors or action steps or professions or something that is in line with that. And then just start playing around. So I told you earlier, I love hiking, I love nature, and I've been doing one-on-one sessions with some of my clients in the woods or in nature, and I do coaching intensives where I haven't done in Israel, but when I was in Pittsburgh, I used to take people to a cabin on the Allegheny River, and for 2.5 days, I used to coach them and do different exercises with them. So as I was, looking at my purpose, this is what I decided. I want to do coaching and hiking and put it together. And we're doing the first one in the beginning of March. But experiment. I am also going to spend a day or maybe a couple of days in a nursery here and play with plants and get my hands in the dirt, just because I like plants and I want to have a different experience. And today I was asking somebody about a wood shop, if they knew anybody that was a carpenter and I could use maybe their wood shop. So in that, you take the information that you have and you do something with that and see how you feel about it. And you want to track it. Okay, one of the things that we forget to do is the tracking. Is that as you are, taking some action steps, and maybe you've been thinking about playing some music, and you used to play music, and you're thinking about it. So when you're playing that piano or the guitar, or track, how do I feel about it? Was that really in my head and I thought I should do it, or was it something that I felt good about and I really liked it? Because I tell you what is important for you to notice is that a lot of times we stop ourselves to really live our purpose because we have low self-esteem, or we have beliefs running or that from our families and our societies, our parents, that tell us how we should live our lives. It's like those families where everybody has been a policeman, and so I need to be a policeman, or lawyers or doctors, or my society tells me that I should get married at the age of 20 and have 6 kids, and any of this is good and well, but it has to be your purpose and your choice. And as you are moving yourself forward, and maybe some of you who've tried this and have given up, it's probably because you're running some negative beliefs, you have some unworthiness, and that you're running against yourself, that's holding you back.
I agree.
Rebekah, you want to say something about that?
I agree. I think that again, I think it's like what I said earlier. It's like, it's true. You should definitely step out of whatever the stereotypical norms are for you if you feel like that is not for you. But I also think it goes back to what we started talking about, which is like, you could have a purpose right now and you can have a purpose like later on, and like those two things can change. And I also think that like sometimes maybe we don't get to control what our purpose is right now. Like, what if it's, for me, I think like there are sometimes stepping stones that you have to get through to get to the next stage. Like, what if it's, in order for me to get to the next stage, I have to go through this. It's part of the purpose. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not expressing myself that well. I think, I don't know. I think that it's just really important to understand that, like, even though it feels like maybe you're not doing your purpose, you are. I think it's really important to note something that you said earlier. Struck me, how you used to be a painter, which, by the way, I didn't know that about you. I knew you used to be an organizer, but I didn't know you used to be a painter. Painting is really meditative. And if you look at like the great leaders in Jewish history, they have been shepherds, which is also really meditative. And it gives people time to think and grow and plan. And what I love about that is that, like, yeah, maybe painting wasn't your purpose, but it's some action that you're taking where you can think about what your purpose is. And sometimes we get so caught up in what is our, like, all the things we have to do, all the small steps we have to take to get to the purpose, and like we lose like that small step. It's like when you're in the shower, all those ideas come to you, right? Because it's like your mind is relaxed and you're not focusing on all the things that you have to do. And so like sometimes it's good to stop what you think is your purpose, or all the goals that you have, or all the productivity that needs to happen, so you can just clear your mind a little bit and do something that is like allows your mind to relax and get you to the next stage. Does that make sense? Was I clear?
Yeah, it does make sense, definitely. So I want to open it up and see if anybody has a question, any comments, or anything that they would like us to go in to a little bit deeper. So anybody want to share, or or post a question that we can answer. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. I think if you do those steps, it will really propel you forward in getting closer, or identifying, or reaffirming what your purpose is.
I have a question, which is that you've both spoken a lot about sort of conceptually understanding what your purpose is, but at the same time, the things that you do. And so I'd like you to sort of differentiate, right, the difference between the ways that you may express your purpose in the here and now, or the steps that you may have to take temporarily in order to be at a stage in your life where you can be expressing that purpose more, perhaps, from the process of clarifying what it is. So what's the difference sort of between what you're doing on the ground and the definition of what your purpose is as a whole? And then my second question is, how do you know that you're on the right track and that you haven't just sort of guessed wrong, that that's your purpose?
Okay, so I'm going to answer the second question first.
Great questions.
What?
Those are great questions.
Yeah, those are good questions. So I think you know that you're on the right track when there's a level of satisfaction inside you that you live with on a day-to-day basis. When you wake up in the morning and you're generally happy to go out and embrace your day and do the things that whether it's a role, or that you feel fulfilled, that you have a level of fulfillment in your life. I think those are all signs that you are on the right track, and that you're doing your purpose, and that you're not wondering, am I doing my purpose? Am I doing my purpose? Am I doing my purpose? If you just generally feel that, I know who I am, and I know why I'm on the planet, and I know what I'm here to do, and I'm doing it in some form. And maybe some days I'm doing it more than others. But that's, I think, is a good way to know it. And I think on the other end is that when you are questioning yourself and you're not sure and you're dissatisfied and you drag yourself to your work and you're not happy and you're not happy in your circumstance, in your family, and I think then there's the questions like, what am I doing? What is my purpose? And so I think that's a good indicator that you're not on purpose. Or when you're bored, I know I have a client who's very good at what she's doing at work, but she's terribly bored, and she's doing it because the money is good and it's kind of easy for her. But she tells me all the time, I'm not doing my purpose. I know, and I'm doing this because there's means to an end, and I don't know how to do my purpose in such a way that I can make enough money. Well, for me, that's a good problem to have, because there's a way to do your purpose and make enough money. So that's how I would answer that question. And Rebekah, is there anything you would want to add to that?
I think that sometimes, even when we're on the right track, it just takes time to get there. And sometimes it's patience, and it feels sometimes like we're not on the right track, but we are. And I know that sounds like contradictory to what you said, Barbara, but I don't think it is, because sometimes like it's that journey that allows us to move forward. And so to me, it's like still part of the purpose. So it helps. What it does is it helps us figure out, like, okay, let's use your example for a minute, like with the person in her job who's bored. Okay, so that goes back to that whole meditative time where it's like, okay, well, I'm bored at this job, but the money is good. So now I have this time. What would I do? And now I can figure out, like, exactly, I have this time where I can figure out exactly like where I want to take this and how I can actually make money. I mean, Albert Einstein was I think a postal clerk, or a patent clerk, I think he was. And he said, like, that time where I was doing something to make money that wasn't so rigorous for my brain allowed me to focus afterwards on the parts that were more rigorous. Like, the part that made money for me, like, wasn't my purpose necessarily, but it allowed me to fulfill my purpose. And I think that that's also like something important to note. Like, that time is it's not wasted. It's important too. Like, we can still take away something from that time.
Barbara, before you answer my second question, which I appreciate, Delia wrote in a question that just dovetails exactly on what Rebekah was saying, which is why I want to interject that for some of the people who are on this webinar are expatriates. And, Delia was speaking specifically of people who live here, sometimes make compromises within career choices. So how can we compromise, as you're talking about, Rebekah, in order to make a living, when that isn't necessarily mean that we're expressing our purpose professionally? And how do we do that in a healthy way? That was her question.
So I think it goes back to what I said, like, originally in the opening, which was, this person said to me, I'm a translator. Okay, so on the surface, being a translator, well, like, I don't know what what she felt her purpose was, but like, let's assume that she has the same goal of making the world a better place. Okay. And if that is the purpose, like, well, translation doesn't necessarily do that on its own, right? Like, it's not like life-changing that you translate something, right? But it is for someone who is desperately in need of a document to be translated because they don't understand, that the bank is putting a hold on their account or whatever it is, like, and they just need someone to explain to them what's going on. And there's this idea in Judaism where if you save one person, you save the whole world. And I think that is a way, like, within your job, within your career, or just within something that you're good at, like a hobby even, where you can say, like, this is my purpose to help people. This is how I can help people and still make money. I think that there is always a way to, okay, I think that that life is full of compromises. It totally is. I mean, I am also an expatriate living in Israel, and like, there are lots of compromises, but I think that if you are crafty and can push yourself a little bit further, you can actually figure out like a way where it doesn't all have to be a compromise so that it feels like a compromise. I mean, everything in life is a compromise no matter what, but it doesn't always have to feel that way. And I think that that's a really important distinction. So if you were actually doing something that you loved, or that allowed you to do something you loved, it would make it easier for you. But also, I think that it's really important to remember that sometimes it is just a stepping stone to the next step. And sometimes we just have to wait and be patient because there's some other message that we have to learn in order to get to the next point. I think what's really, really frustrating is figuring out, like, for me at least, what I always feel really frustrated with is, okay, so I'm doing this now and I enjoy it, but kind of I'm at this fork in the road where I either have to go one way or I have to go the other way. And how do I decide which one to pick? Like, how do I know which one will get me closer to my goals? How do I know what will get me closer to my goals? How do I know what will help me complete my purpose? And I think for me, what always resonates is the idea is like, as long as I can find a way that I'm being true to myself, like that's what's bringing me to my purpose. And that's really, really hard for me. And, you know, Barbara and I have worked on that a lot, but it's super hard for me. I don't know if it's hard for anybody else, but I'm just being upfront. Like it's hard to figure out, like, if I'm going in the right direction, if what I'm doing is worthwhile. It's hard. Sometimes you just have to make those decisions. But I think if you don't make the decisions, life will decide for you, because nobody's standing still all the time. Like, we are moving forward always. If we're not moving forward, we're dead, right? Like, we always are taking the next breath. We are always moving into the next place. And I think that if we don't really consider that something that we're doing right now helps us also get to the next step, then we're kind of missing the point of being also in the now. I hope that is helpful.
So, you know, I want to underline that, and hopefully that's pretty clear that, you know, no matter where you are, no matter where we are at the moment, it's always that we're learning something. It's just nicer when we know what the purpose is and when we know of why we're going through something, right? And the exercises and the steps that I gave you, you can really apply them in many different areas of your life, because if you really know what your values are, if you know what your values are and you can be true to yourself, like Rebekah said, it'll be easier for you to choose between left and right, because your decisions will be rooted in your values. And if you're not entirely clear on your purpose, you know, and often, you know, we make mistakes, and life is about moving forward and taking action and making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. So, but I want to go and ask and answer the other part of the question, which remind me, you know, we have only 9 minutes, so I want to make.
Okay, so right. So the question was, how do you distinguish between the things that you're doing and your goals, your actions, the things that you're doing, and the process of determining your purpose, and sort of separating those out. We do have one more question after that, so let's just make sure to leave time for it.
Okay, so they're all connected, but all these things are interconnected. And I sometimes feel there's like a hierarchy. Okay, so my purpose is it's on top of my little pyramid, and then I have my goals, and they're connected to that. And you have to remember that just because that our job and the roles that we play and the commitments that we have, they sometimes align more than other times with our purpose. Okay, so I might have a commitment to take care of my mother, and that also might be my purpose, that I like to help people, and then I like transformation. And And so in that case, it's very much aligned, but sometimes it's not so much aligned. And then when it's not so much aligned, but I have a commitment, you can align yourself in that way that you say, but I am a person that keeps their commitment, and boom, you're realigning your action and the commitment and your goals with your purpose. So if it's not upfront and totally obvious on how they're aligned, you can help yourself by taking those action steps and fulfilling on your goal by aligning yourself with your purpose, because there's always a way back. So there's a direct way, there's a back way, and there's an internal way. So because it will help you, because it gives you energy. When we are, I go back to what I said in the very beginning, when we are in line with our purpose and we really think that we're living and breathing and doing our purpose, it will give you energy. And so it's like you can look at the things that you're doing in your life that you're committed to, and can see how does it actually align with my purpose. And if it's really off, listen, I coached somebody a long time ago that owned 10 McDonald's, and she herself was a vegetarian. And for her, there was like, that didn't line up with her. She's a vegetarian. And I inherited this from my parents. My father started this, and he bought one restaurant, and I think it was actually 15. But we found a way to realign it back to her values and her purpose, not in that particular way of what the restaurant was offering, but in the training program and giving back to the community and all those different things that she couldn't do without being the owner of the restaurant. So it's like you can help yourself by looking at, and if it really doesn't align, let it go. And you can have a goal for yourself. And while you're executing your goal, you can realize that it's not at all in alignment with who you are and what you want to do. And you can say, you know what? I can let go of this goal and I can move on to something else.
I think it may have to be our last question for the evening. If anybody else has a question that is burning that you want to write in, we'll see if we can get to it. But Sarah asks,
just privately,
if you can say, correct, and we will follow up so that you can be in touch with Rebekah and Barbara. Can you say more about what to do with everything once you have it all on cards or on paper? Meaning you just laid out these really clear steps. And once that's laid out and you have it on paper, what are some steps that you can do to move that forward and use your new power of having your purpose clarified?
Awesome. So I would define some action steps for myself. So if I have it all aligned, like I told you about my coaching hike, I am going on this hike and I'm going to try this out and see how that works for me. So I would take you'll probably be familiar with the SMART action steps. I would take a very small action step that's smart, measurable, action oriented, with a timeline. And I would track and see how I feel about it. And if I liked it and it was a good thing, I would redo it maybe in the same way, or maybe I would tweak it a little bit. Okay, so after you have it really all lined up, I would create something for myself. So I would really look at what makes sense. Maybe I want to spend the day in the nursery, or I remember last year before COVID, I was having coffee in a bakery, and there was my 4-year-old son at the time, and the guy said to me, "Hey, if you want to have a job, I'll show you how to make donuts, basically." And I was like, "Oh, that would be kind of interesting to see, to work in a bakery for a day, just to see if I liked it or not." So when we are open to the universe will bring you opportunities all the time. And as you're starting to line yourself up, you'll be surprised how the opportunities to sort of check this out will come to you. So just have your eyes and your ears really wide open, listen and watch, and create some action steps for yourself and just see what happens. Because one door opens and you try something out and you'll have an experience, and then it will lead to something else, and on and on and on and on. So that's my best short answer to you right now.
Excellent. Well, thank you both so much. Is there anything that either one of you want to say in closing? We'll definitely, be emailing those of you who are with us so that you can be in touch in the future. But is there anything either one of you want to just say as we close?
Well, I want to thank Rebekah for making the time to be with us. It's great to be on the call. And I want to thank everybody in the audience for joining. We're going to follow up with you. I think I want to give Rebekah an opportunity to talk about her program, her upcoming program. So if you want to say a word about that, Rebekah.
So I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a personal organization expert, and I really believe that when you can clear out a lot of the excess in your life, you can actually find your real purpose, because it tones down a lot of the excess noise, because stuff, even though it seems like it doesn't make noise, it makes a lot of noise. So I have a 36-day decluttering challenge that's coming up starting on Sunday, and every day you get a quick 15 to 30 minute challenge to do daily, delivered straight to your email inbox, and it will help you declutter your whole house. And there's actually an accountability arm this time. There's 3 pods every Sunday that you can choose which pod you want to join, and we declutter together as a group, as like a little decluttering club, because I just wanted people to, my purpose is to help people, and I believe that my purpose is to help people live their best life. And I think that the way you can live your best life is by being free of distractions. So I only create courses that people can excel at and people can succeed at, because, and I want to give a bit of about accountability that I can, because it's really important to me that whoever's in any of my courses succeeds. So I do my best to support my students in every possible way, and that's what I designed these pods for. So it's $36 for the challenge, and Barbara is going to send out a link, or maybe Rachel's going to put it in the chat. And I hope to see you all inside the challenge.
Fantastic. So thank you again.
Well, we will send it. We'll send it by email.
We'll send out an email. And for those of you who don't know me, my purpose is to assist people from all walks of life to manifest their goals, dreams, and desires. And if you want to learn more about how I do that, you can also follow up with me. And once again, thank you. Come back. I hope we inspired you tonight. And please contact us if you have any questions. So thank you again.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me.